NEOM was never meant to be an ordinary city. While the world was still admiring the next skyscrapers in Dubai or the next business districts rising in Riyadh, the Saudis decided to go a step further, to create a project that breaks the very definition of a city. Not a single coherent organism growing layer by layer, but an archipelago of visions where each part plays a completely different role. In classic metropolises, from New York to Shanghai, a city grows like a living organism: a center, residential districts, industrial zones, entertainment quarters, ports. Everything weaves into one tissue. NEOM works in reverse. Here, every fragment is meant to be a separate experiment, a self-contained world that cannot really be compared with its neighbor. Imagine looking at a map of Saudi Arabia. On the desert, where until recently there was only sand, wind, and camels, a pattern of geometric shapes suddenly appears. A line that cuts through the sands for 170 kilometers, an octagon rising out of the sea like a floating factory of the future, a triangle of mountains where a ski resort is supposed to appear, and an island in the Red Sea gleaming with luxury. That is NEOM, not a city, but a constellation of 4 different worlds. The Saudi authorities call this the 4 pillars of the future. But each of these pillars is not only architecture, it is also a story aimed at a very specific audience. The line is meant to speak the language of global technologists and idealists. Oxagon, the language of industry and logistics. Trojana, the language of premium tourism and sport. Sindala, the language of luxury and hedonism. Together they form a narrative about a country that wants to be everything at once: a laboratory, a factory, a resort, and a stage for the world's elite. But this is also a question: is such a mosaic city even possible? Can you build 4 visions at once that, under normal circumstances, would be created separately, in different places and different eras? The history of urban planning knows industrial cities, tourist cities, icon cities, but never before has anyone tried to build all of them at the same time, and on a desert. Abdul Rahman, an engineering student, looks at the visualizations of the line and says, "It looks like a computer game, but they really want to build it." Aisha, his cousin, adds, "It's like someone wants to create 4 worlds from the future and put them into one box. The only question is whether we'll live there or whether it will be only for foreigners." Because NEOM is not just a construction project, it is also a political, social, and cultural project. The division into districts is, in fact, a division into scenarios of the future that Saudi Arabia is testing simultaneously. Each of them may succeed or fail spectacularly. But one thing is certain: each of them is an experiment on a living organism. And that is exactly what we will look at in this episode. We will enter each of these districts separately, see what they are supposed to be, how they are being built, for whom they are being created, and where they stand today. Because NEOM is not one story. It is 4 different tales that intertwine into one narrative. The story of a country that wants to leap from the Middle Ages straight into the future. The first story, The Line, a city in the mirror of the desert. At first glance, it looks like a mirage. 2 gigantic glass walls stretching across the desert like a horizon made solid. 170 kilometers long, 200 meters wide, 500 meters high. Not a skyscraper, not a town, but a line that is supposed to be home to 9 million people. That is the description of the line. The central element of NEOM, and at the same time, the boldest urban vision of the 21st century. In classic cities, everything grows in spirals, from the old center, through successive districts, all the way to the suburbs. The line is the antithesis of this model. Here, there is no separate transport backbone. The backbone is the city itself, a single line that is everything at once: road, wall, roof, and home. The architects explain it simply. This is meant to be a vertical city, not a horizontal one. Instead of sprawling sideways, it climbs upwards and stretches along one axis. The renderings show interiors straight out of science fiction films. Hanging gardens suspended in the air. Apartments, whose windows look out onto the desert and the sea at the same time. Corridors with glass walls behind which autonomous transport capsules glide past, and systems of artificial intelligence that control the entire rhythm of life. From air conditioning to water distribution, everything is supposed to be within a 5-minute walk. At least that is what the creators promise. Who is this city for? Officially, for everyone. In practice, for the global tech elite, for young professionals, for those who want to live in the world's first truly ecological city. The Saudis say that the line will be free of cars, exhaust fumes, and traffic jams. Instead, a high-speed rail line is supposed to carry residents from one end to the other in 20 minutes. It sounds like utopia, but the authorities emphasize that this is not science fiction. It is already under construction. And indeed, satellite images show a long scar carved into the desert. This is no computer graphic. It is a real trench for the foundations. Massive machines are digging, and the first structural modules are beginning to rise. But here, another question appears. Will anyone actually live in this line by 2030? Or will it be just a fragment, a full-scale mock-up, a symbol of a vision that outran its time? Abdul Rahman, an architecture student from Riyadh, looks at the line with a mix of fascination and skepticism. It looks like a render from a video game, and at the same time, I know they really believe in it. Maybe that's the strength of this country, that it can dream like that. Aisha, his cousin, replies, "But will ordinary Saudis be able to live there? Or will it be only for foreigners, for rich people?" Because the line inspires as many doubts as it does admirers. How do you maintain a stable microclimate in a glass corridor on a desert where summer temperatures reach 50 degrees? How do you provide water for 9 million people in a place where water has always been scarce? How do you avoid social isolation in a city that is essentially a gigantic corridor? Experts are divided into two camps. Some say, this is a vision that will change the world of urban planning. If it works, other countries will copy the line. Others answer, it's the biggest model in the world, beautiful in pictures, but unworkable in practice. And perhaps that is precisely the point. The line does not have to be completed in its entirety to fulfill its role. Already today, it attracts investors, engineers, and architects who want to be part of something unique. Already today, it forces people to discuss the future of cities. And already today, it has become a symbol of a Saudi Arabia that wants to tell the world. We are ready not only for oil, but also for the future. The line is a mirror, not only in architectural terms, but also metaphorically. A mirror in which Saudi Arabia sees itself as it would like to be, modern, green, technological. The question is whether ordinary people will also be reflected in that mirror, or only the dreams of princes and investors. The second story, Oxagon, the floating heart of industry. If the line is meant to be the icon of everyday life, Oxagon is supposed to be the beating heart of work. At first glance, it sounds like science fiction. The world's largest floating port and industrial center, built in the shape of an octagon, resting on the waters of the Red Sea. The Saudi authorities describe Oxagon as a factory of the future. There will be no smoking chimneys or dirty workshops. Instead, laboratories researching artificial intelligence, production lines managed by robots, logistics centers powered by data, and energy generated solely from renewable sources. In their narrative, this is not 19th century industry, but 21st century industry. Light, clean, intelligent. But what exactly is Oxagon? It is not just factories, it is also a port. Its location on the Red Sea offers a strategic advantage. Almost 10% of global maritime trade passes through these waters. The Saudis want Oxagon to capture part of that traffic and become a logistics hub between Asia, Europe, and Africa. In their vision, a container ship arrives at Oxagon. Its cargo is transferred to factories within hours. Robots process it, and the finished products are loaded back onto ships and sent out into the world. No delays, no wasted energy. Who is Oxagon for? For global companies looking for a new place to invest. Saudi Arabia is inviting tech giants pharmaceutical corporations, electronics manufacturers, renewable energy firms. It is meant to be the place where West and East meet in one point. But here, another question arises. Will companies really move their factories and centers to Oxagon? Dubai has attracted service businesses, Singapore, logistics. Saudi Arabia still has to prove that it can create stable, attractive conditions, not only for buildings, but for the people who will work in them. The current state looks impressive in official materials. Construction on the coast, the first energy installations, a port being developed in stages. The government has announced that by 2030, Oxagon is supposed to be operating in its basic form. But experts point to serious challenges: the enormous cost of building on water, the difficulty of supplying energy and water, and the question of whether a port city in the middle of the desert can attract enough workers from all over the world. Abdulrahman sees huge opportunity in it. Imagine the biggest labs in the world in one place, access to the sea, advanced technologies. It's like Silicon Valley on water. Aisha shakes her head. And who's actually going to work there? Our people who have never seen a factory from inside, or foreigners who will come and build their own enclaves? Oxagon is an experiment even more risky than the line. Because living in a luxury apartment is one thing. Working in a floating factory is another. It is also a question of whether you can truly reconcile industry and ecology. The Saudis promise that Oxagon will be climate neutral and environmentally friendly. Critics respond, there is no such thing as clean industry. That's an oxymoron, and yet Oxagon already attracts attention, because it is not only an economic project, but also a symbol of Saudi transformation. From a country that, for decades, exported oil, it wants to become a country that exports technology. And it is in this mirrored octagon on the water that the Saudis' greatest ambition is visible: to step from the age of oil into the age of data. The third story, Trojana, the Alps in the heart of the desert. Imagine driving hundreds of kilometers through a sun-scorched desert where summer temperatures exceed 40, sometimes 50 degrees. Suddenly mountains rise ahead of you, and on their slopes, snow. It sounds like a mirage. And yet Saudi Arabia wants Trojana to look exactly like that. A futuristic ski resort in the heart of NEOM. Trojana is meant to be the Alps of the Middle East. At more than 2,000 meters above sea level, a city resort is being built that aims to attract premium tourists from all over the world. The plans include ski slopes, a dam lake, luxury hotels, private residences, conference centers, and sports facilities. The biggest symbol of these ambitions? Saudi Arabia has already secured the right to host the 2029 Asian Winter Games in Trojana. Who is Trojana for? For wealthy tourists from Arab countries who until now have had to fly to Switzerland or Austria to ski. For the global upper class looking for new exotic destinations. For companies and organizations that need a spectacular place for conferences and events. How is it supposed to work? The architects promise that Trojana will combine the naturally cooler climate of the NEOM Mountains with advanced cooling technology and artificial snow production. The resort is meant to operate year-round, skiing in winter, trekking, climbing, and water sports on the artificial lake in summer. All of this in a luxurious setting, with service at the highest level. The current state? Satellite images and reports show initial work on the dam that will create the lake. Contracts have been announced for hotels and sports infrastructure. The organization of the Winter Games forces a rapid pace, which means that within a few years, Trojana really has to become more than just beautiful visualizations. But Trojana also sparks controversy. Environmentalists ask, how can you maintain ski slopes in a country that struggles with water scarcity? Where will the energy come from to cool the air and make snow? Isn't this the most expensive mirage in the history of modern urbanism? Abdulrahman dreams of skiing in Trojana one day. It will be incredible. To ski and then be at the sea within an hour, he says. Aisha looks more critically. But do we really need this? Isn't it just a toy for the rich, while ordinary people struggle for housing and jobs? Trojana is a symbol of another dimension of NEOM, not only technology and industry, but also luxury and image. Saudi Arabia wants to show the world that it can create something no one has done before, a winter resort in the heart of the desert. It is more than a tourism project. It is a demonstration of power, a declaration that in this country even the laws of nature can be bent. The only question is whether this demonstration will bring real returns, or whether it will become the most expensive illusion show in the history of urban planning. The fourth story, Sindala, an island of dreams and luxury. If the line is meant to symbolize modern everyday life, Oxagon, work and industry, and Trojana, playful luxury in the mountains, then Sindala is the cherry on top. It is an island project in the Red Sea that is supposed to become Saudi Arabia's answer to Dubai, Ibiza, and the Maldives all at once. Sindala is not an urban experiment, it is a resort for the chosen. The Saudi authorities openly say that it is to be NEOM's gateway to luxury, a place where the global elite will rest, party, and invest. A marina for 80 yachts, golf courses designed by world-class architects, luxury villas, hotels overlooking the turquoise water of the Red Sea, and clubs meant to attract celebrities from all over the world. Who is Sindala for? For premium tourists who currently spend their holidays on Ibiza, in Dubai, or on Greek islands. For yacht owners looking for new ports in the region. For celebrities and wealthy Arabs who want to have luxury at home instead of flying to Europe. How is it supposed to work? Sindala is designed as an international resort, not only for Saudis, but above all for foreign visitors. Music festivals, sports events, business meetings are to be held here. The island is to serve as a calling card, a place that shows the soft face of Saudi Arabia. The current state? Unlike the line or Trojana, Sindala is already in an advanced phase of construction. Hotels, the yacht marina, and the first villas are rising. The official opening is planned for the near future. This is the part of NEOM that is progressing the fastest, because it requires the least controversial technologies and can generate the quickest returns. But Sindala is also a political project. Saudi Arabia wants to attract tourists, but must face a difficult question. How do you reconcile luxury hedonism with the country's conservative culture? Alcohol, parties until dawn, Western lifestyle. These are all symbols of Dubai. But will Riyadh allow similar customs to take root on a Saudi island? Abdulrahman dreams of sailing to Sindala and seeing yachts from all over the world. It'll be like a new Dubai, only more beautiful, he says. Aisha has a different view. Is it really for us? Will an ordinary Saudi ever rest there? Or will it be a place only for rich foreigners while we serve their tables? Sindala is the most down-to-earth and at the same time the most symbolic element of NEOM. Down-to-earth, because it is easier to build a luxury island than a city line or a floating port. Symbolic, because it shows that Saudi Arabia wants not just technology and industry, but also a place in the global elite of tourism and entertainment. It is an island of dreams and an island of questions. Because if rich Europeans, Americans, Asians, and Arabs meet on its beaches, then perhaps for the first time, NEOM will become truly global. Or perhaps Sindala will remain only an enclave of luxury, a place that looks beautiful in brochures but does not change the country's everyday reality. Bringing the story together, the line, Oxagon, Trojana, and Sindala, 4 names that sound like titles of futuristic novels. Together, they are meant to form NEOM, a project on a scale the world has never seen. Saudi Arabia is selling it as a mosaic of the future, a city that will be a laboratory, a port, a resort, and an island of luxury all at once. But in this mosaic, not only the Saudis' vision is reflected, the gazes of the entire world are reflected in it, stretching the image from admiration to mockery, from hope to fear. In Europe, architects and urbanists talk about NEOM as a giant laboratory. It's a place where you can test solutions we would never dare to implement at home, say designers from Paris or Berlin. At the same time, critics ask, will this really be a city for people? Or rather a backdrop for investors? In the United States, tech companies see in NEOM a vast market. Silicon Valley treats it as a testing ground for artificial intelligence, autonomous transport, and green energy. Yet American liberal media warn, this is techno-authoritarianism in its purest form, a city where every movement of its inhabitants will be recorded in algorithms. Beijing looks at NEOM differently. China sees it as an extension of its own ambitions and a natural destination for construction and technology contracts. Official newspapers write, Arabia is building, we are supplying the technology. But in that same sentence, there is a note of caution. Because if the Saudis build their own innovation hub, they might cease to be just clients and become competitors. India views NEOM through the eyes of ordinary people. Millions of potential workers see a chance for a better life in it. Already today, thousands of laborers and engineers from Delhi, Lahore, and Dhaka are heading to the construction sites. Governments, however, ask, will NEOM become a trap in which our people are only cheap labor for someone else's vision? Africa watches with a mixture of envy and unease. Egypt, Kenya, or Morocco dreamed of attracting tourists and investors. Now they see Saudi Arabia potentially overtaking them and capturing the capital that was supposed to go to them. For Saudi Arabia itself, NEOM is a game for everything. The benefits seem obvious. The project can attract investment and talent from all over the world, help diversify the economy and reduce its dependence on oil, strengthen the country's political position, and give young Saudis the feeling that their state truly is becoming part of the future. But the risks are just as big. If the project fails, it will be the biggest financial disaster in the region's history. If it succeeds only partially, it may alienate society, because NEOM will become a city for elites, while the rest of the country remains a completely different world. Conservative values may clash with Western lifestyles and lead to cultural fracture. Saudi Arabia also risks dependence on foreign companies that provide the technologies and know-how. And then the vision of a modern state might turn out to be just a facade built on someone else's foundations. Critics warn that NEOM may turn into a real-world Elysium. In the film, the rich live in a luxury space station, while the poor survive on a ruined Earth. The line could become a corridor for the global elite, Oxagon, a lab for foreign firms, Trojana and Sindala, toys for wealthy tourists. In such a scenario, NEOM would not be the future of Saudi Arabia, but its separate world. A world that looks wonderful in brochures but does not change ordinary people's lives. You can therefore look at NEOM as a mosaic of the future and as a mosaic of illusions. One thing is certain, it is an experiment without precedent. If it succeeds, it will change how we think about cities. If it fails, it will be remembered as the most expensive mirage in the desert. Abdul Rahman says, maybe it will be our Elysium, a place that really changes everything. Aisha adds, or our Babel, a beautiful tower that collapses because it was built without a soul. And that exact question, whether NEOM will become the Elysium of the future or the Babel of the past, opens the way to the next episode, in which we will try to look at the everyday life of this city. Because in the end, it is not rendered visions, not conferences and glossy brochures that decide the future, but people, and whether they will truly want to live there.